Pattern number 6 is the comparison and contrast pattern of organization. While we see this often in scientific writing, it's also a common pattern that's used in history or the social sciences, where you're comparing one group of people or one type of person to another. It always addresses two, and in some cases more, different but somehow related topics. So the comparison contrast can deal with people, it can deal with events or ideas, it can deal with weather patterns, any number of different topics. The topic sentence in this type of paragraph is probably going to announce how these two topics are different or how they are similar to each other. And sometimes there's a bias that's also present where they're trying to put one idea or person or object as being better or worse than the other. Comparison and contrast paragraphs don't always include a stated topic sentence. Sometimes the author will just simply identify similarities and differences and let that speak for themselves. Once again, we'll see transitions that often point our way as to understanding the similarities or differences. Things like similarity in contrast, in the same vein, however. Let's take a look at this example paragraph. An experiment with dogs suggests that our canine pals, much like ourselves, differ in their attitude toward life. Some dogs are pessimists, while others appear to be optimists. In an experiment at a British veterinary school, researchers placed bowls of food in a regular location and got dogs to find their dinner there. The researchers then placed a consistently empty bowl in a separate location with a second food-filled bowl placed between the two. Some dogs, when led to the empty bowl, would just give up if no food was present. These were the pessimists. The optimists, however, having experienced a reward on previous occasions, would keep looking and eventually locate the bowl in the middle that had the food. The dogs labeled pessimistic also grew anxious if separated from their owners. They bark, they chew things, and they urinate inappropriately. The optimist dogs, though, tended to fall asleep when they were left alone. They also greeted strangers as possible substitute playmates. In contrast, the pessimistic dogs would react to strangers with fear and aggression. So, what's being compared in this paragraph? Well, we're comparing pessimistic and optimistic dogs. And so we could easily sketch this out in our notes. We'll show you a way to do that in just a moment. A few note-taking tips for you. Don't get so caught up in the similarities and the differences that you leave out the main idea that's developed there. Writers are using similarities and differences to make a point, so make sure that you get that point captured in your notes as well. And even if you're not a person who would consider yourself to be a visual learner, take a look at page 215. And on page 215, you see a really good example of a Venn diagram. And the thing that you want to take note of here is that this particular Venn diagram is shown in a rather different pattern that we're not used to seeing. We've got that main idea, the point of doing the comparison contrast across the top of the diagram. And then you have the comparison contrast of the two things in the boxes that fall below. Diagrams give your mind two different ways to remember the similarities and the differences. You've got the words themselves that you read, like the words that we've read about the pessimistic and optimistic dogs. But if we put it in a visual image, that's stored in a different part of our brain, and again, it strengthens our memory and our ability to recall the information. Whenever we double this up, we're going to be able to remember that information for a much longer time. So here's a traditional looking Venn diagram. This time in your notes, you have a choice. between acoustic and electric guitars and telephone service. So you can choose either one of those paragraphs in your packet. And what I want you to do is to create a Venn diagram. And the way this standard type of Venn diagram works is that what's unique to one item is listed on the left side, what's unique to another item is listed on the right, and then the overlapping of the circles contains items that are true for both of the things that are being compared. If you take a look on page 214, you'll see that there are two different sets of transition words presented for you. There are some transitions that apply toward similarities that are being discussed, and another set of transition words that signal you that you're looking at the differences between two different objects. Once you finish your work on taking notes on the paragraph of your choice, then please proceed to complete Exercise 6.